President. Folks, give a warm welcome to Governor Gary Johnson.
I want you all to know that I wouldn't be doing this if I didn't think I could do a really good job as President of the United States. I just wouldn't be embarked on this at all. I do have a resume, and I think that it suggests that I can do this job. I did start a one-man handyman business when I was a junior in college at the University of New Mexico. I started a business as a one-man handyman and actually grew that business to employ over 1,000 people in New Mexico. Architects, engineers, plumbers, pipe fitters. It's amazing what can happen when you show up on time and do what you say you'll do for people. Now, I sold that business in 1999. Nobody lost their job. They're doing better than ever. It allows me to have a full-time unpaid job running for President of the United States. I am an athlete too. You heard that I summited Mount Everest. I want you to know I did not conquer Mount Everest, okay? I broke my leg prior to going to Mount Everest. And breaking my leg prior to going to Mount Everest, I think it's a testament to what we all experience in our lives, which is no matter what we plan on in our lives, things go bad, no matter what. And at that point in our lives, we can either lay on the couch and feel victimized, or take the hand that we're dealt with and move forward. And I want you all to know that you're looking at somebody with no quit, absolutely no quit whatsoever. I had never been involved in politics prior to running for governor of New Mexico. I went and I introduced myself to the Republican Party a couple of weeks before I announced. John Latuzio, who is the chairman of the Republican Party, he says, "Man, Gary, I like what you've got to say. I like what you've done. We're inclusive as a party. We'll include you in all the meetups. You can go make your case to state Republicans that you be their nominee." He said, "But you just need to know, man, you will never win. That it is not possible to come from completely outside of politics and get elected governor in a state that's 2-to-1 Democrat. It's not going to happen." Well, it did happen, and I would like to think it was based on what I had to say, which was just to bring a common sense business approach to state government. Best product, best service, lowest price. Keep government out of the bedroom. Keep government out of making decisions in my life that only I should be making. In that context, I may have vetoed more bills than the other 49 governors in the country combined. I vetoed 750 bills. Thousands of line-item vetoes when I was governor of New Mexico. Now, only 2 of them were overridden, so it made a difference when it came to billions of dollars worth of spending. It made a difference when it came to government telling you or I what we should do in the bedroom. It made a difference when it came to the government telling you and I what we should do in cases that these were decisions that only you and I should have been making. How did all that work out? In New Mexico, in a state that's 2-to-1 Democrat, I got reelected by a bigger margin the second time than the first time. I just think it speaks volumes to the fact that people really do appreciate good stewardship of tax dollars. Now, over the last year, there's been one poll and a couple of studies on all the presidential candidates. One of them was, they did a poll on the favorability of all the presidential candidates in his or her own state. There's only one presidential candidate, it's really surprising, only one presidential candidate viewed favorably in his or her own state, and I'm that candidate. How does that work in New Mexico? In New Mexico, people wave at me with all 5 fingers, not just one. It's a big thing. Another thing they did a study on all the presidential candidates and their job creation record. Well, I had the best record when it came to job creation. And my response to that was the same as it was when it was governor of New Mexico. I did not create one single job as governor of New Mexico. The private sector creates jobs. But I did create an environment of certainty. I controlled all the agencies. I appointed the heads of all the boards and commissions. I controlled all rules and regulations. And I want to say rules and regulations got better on a daily basis with just a root in common sense. Less time, less money to have to comply with government. If it wasn't going to make us any safer, it wasn't going to make us any more healthy. And then the ACLU. The ACLU came out with a report card last December on all of the presidential candidates. And I think this is really important because the ACLU is a group dedicated to the Constitution of the United States. The ACLU is a group dedicated to the first 10 amendments of the Constitution of the United States, the Bill of Rights. They are absolutely, profoundly advocates for civil liberties. So the ACLU came out with a report card. 24 liberty torches was a perfect score. Mitt Romney and Rick Santorum had 0 liberty torches out of 24. This is the guy I'm running against. And then Newt Gingrich had 4 liberty torches out of 24. President Obama had 16 liberty torches out of 24. Ron Paul had 18 liberty torches out of 24. Yeah. And Gary Johnson had 21 liberty torches out of 24. I'm really proud of them. I am really proud of them. So there are other third-party candidates running for President of the United States, but none of them are going to be on the ballot in all 50 states. Right now, I am on the ballot in 48 states. We're litigated in the other 2. At a minimum, I'm going to be a write-in candidate in Michigan. But there are other third-party candidates, but none of them come close to 50-state ballot access. I believe the Green Party is going to be on the ballot in 30 states. I believe the Constitution Party, the Reform Party are going to be on the ballot in 8 to 20 states. So I want to put this into perspective. Really, only 3 candidates that are going to be on the ballot in all 50 states. And I'm still believing that I'm going to be on the ballot in all 50 states, like I say, litigated in the other 2. So when I talk about myself and my opponents, I'm talking about myself versus Mitt Romney and Barack Obama. And in that context, I'm the only candidate that doesn't want to bomb Iran. We bomb Iran, we're going to find ourselves with another 100 million enemies to this country that we would not have otherwise had. After 9/11, the largest demonstration in the world in support of the United States was in Iran. Over 1 million citizens showed up in support of the United States, and we're going to bomb Iran? Look, we bomb Iran, we find ourselves in a 2-year bombing maintenance program with Iran. Right now, we have economic sanctions against Iran, where inflation in Iran is running at 70%. Who do the Iranian people hate because of this? They don't hate their government, they're embracing their government, because they're all in the fight together. They're hating the United States and its allies for implementing these programs. So don't bomb Iran. And how about the notion of free trade with Iran on par with China? Is China a threat to the United States? I reject the fact that China is a threat to the United States, given the fact that they're a trading partner and that they're buying up our debt. I am the only candidate running for president that wants to get out of Afghanistan tomorrow and bring the troops home. We have hundreds of millions of enemies to this country because of our military interventions. Let's stop with our military interventions. And you know what the heart of all, the root of all evil is? The root of all evil are politicians that in the name of getting elected and re-elected are going to save us from the terrorist threat, the illegal immigrant, drugs, you name it, they're going to save us from that. Well, in the name of saving us against the terrorists, we have our own men and women losing their lives. We have men and women coming back to the United States with their limbs blown off. And we end up killing tens of thousands of innocent civilians in these countries where we militarily intervene. These drone strikes, we hit the target, but guess what? We kill all sorts of innocent people in these countries. And if right now a bomb went off and half of us were killed, the other half, I dare say, would vow revenge against the country that implemented that. And that's exactly what's happening abroad. We have all these enemies because of our military interventions. Let's stop with the military interventions. I'm the only candidate running for President of the United States that believes that marriage equality is a constitutionally guaranteed right. I'm the only candidate running for President of the United States that believes we need to end the drug wars now, legalize marijuana now. It's on the ballot in Colorado to regulate marijuana like alcohol. I think we are at a tipping point nationally on this issue. I think Colorado is going to lead the pack. I think Colorado gets it. About 6 years ago, Colorado voted in Denver, voted to decriminalize marijuana on a campaign based on marijuana being safer than alcohol. And here's how I see this all playing out, is when Colorado does this, and everybody in Virginia hops on an airplane to go to Denver to chill out for the weekend, that's the first of 50 state dominoes that fall in line with drug policy. 90% of the drug problem is prohibition related, not use related. That is not to discount the problems with use and abuse, but that should be the focus. And we have 2.3 million people behind bars in this country. We have the highest incarceration rate of any country in the world. The largest category of those behind bars are there on what I would argue is victimless, nonviolent, drug-selling crime. How would it have worked out with a president that would have vetoed legislation? If I would have been president of the United States after 9/11, I would have vetoed the Patriot Act. I think that Homeland Security is incredibly redundant, and TSA, I think, should be in the hands of airports, airlines, municipalities, states, and I dare say that airport security today would be less intrusive and as safe as it is. And if I'm President of the United States, I guarantee you, if Congress doesn't abolish the TSA under my rules and regulations associated with TSA immediately, you will find it less intrusive and as safe. As President of the United States, Barack Obama signed the National Defense Authorization Act, and Romney says he would have done the same. I would have vetoed the National Defense Authorization Act, which allows for you and I, as U.S. citizens, to be arrested and detained without being charged. This is why we have fought wars in this country. I'm the only candidate running for President of the United States that believes we need to balance the federal budget now. And that means addressing the entitlements, Medicaid, Medicare, Social Security. Social Security, by the way, is just a problem that is pale in comparison to Medicare. Social Security is absolutely savable, but we have to address these spending reductions. Military spending, taking military spending back to 2003 spending levels. And notice I used the word military, not defense. We can provide ourselves with a strong national defense, but the operative word is defense, not offense, and not nation building. The federal budget now, we are going to find ourselves in a monetary collapse. And a monetary collapse, very simply, is when the dollars we have don't buy a thing because of the accompanying inflation that goes along with borrowing and printing money to the tune of 43 cents out of every dollar that we spend. And that is an ugly, ugly situation that we need to address now. I'm the only candidate running for President of the United States that is advocating eliminating income tax, corporate tax, abolishing the IRS, and replacing all of that with one federal consumption tax. In this case, I am advocating the fair tax. I think it's really the answer when it comes to American jobs. Basically, we're going to bleed all existing non-transparent federal tax out of goods and services. It's really the answer when it comes to exports. It's the answer when it comes to China, not tariffs, but actually free market, competitive competition with China. It's really the answer when it comes to American jobs, because in a zero corporate tax rate environment, if the private sector doesn't create tens of millions of jobs with a zero corporate tax rate, I don't know what it takes to create tens of millions of jobs. And I also see American manufacturing jobs flocking back to this country, manufacturing jobs worldwide flocking back to the United States in a zero corporate tax rate environment. I'm the only candidate running for President of the United States who would sign legislation abolishing the Federal Reserve. What an inside job. Treasury prints money, they give it to the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve gives money to the banks at 0%. Do banks give us money? No, they keep it for themselves. They buy up treasuries in a closed loop, taking no risk whatsoever and garnering profits with no risk, and we are paying for those profits. That's an inside job. It's crony capitalism at its best. I'm the only candidate running for president that would repeal legal tender laws and would establish competing currencies that we might actually have value in the dollars that we own. So I ran 2 campaigns for governor of New Mexico where I did not mention my opponent in print, radio, or television. I think people are sick of negative ads, and I would ask President Obama and Mitt Romney to stop running negative ads. How about running ads that actually address the problems that this country faces? People are sick and tired of negative ads. We all understand that we have some really difficult issues facing us, and that it's going to involve mutual sacrifice on all of our parts. The key word, I think, being mutual. And as long as we see that, we'll work toward it, and we should be working toward it right now. Barack Obama. I have to tell you that everything that comes out of Barack Obama's mouth, in my opinion, is like music. It's like he's playing a violin, and all the words, everything I hear, how can you disagree with anything that he has to say? It's just that the reality doesn't match up with the words in any way whatsoever. And I'll use medical marijuana as an example. He promised, running for President of the United States, that he would not crack down on medical marijuana facilities in any state where the legislature or where citizens in that state voted to implement these programs. He has cracked down on facilities in California and Colorado, and he explicitly promised to not do that. I thought that he said some really heartening things when it came to marriage equality, when he talked about gay rights. None of it has transpired whatsoever. I thought he said some terrific things when it came to our military interventions, and apparently we have the most militaristic president, as militaristic a president as we've ever had, and that remains status quo, and that has to come to an end. Mitt Romney, in the second debate, said it's a no-brainer to build a fence across the border. You are listening to somebody here who does not have one molecule of brain based on that statement by Mitt Romney. Building a fence across the border would be an incredible waste of time and money. We should make it, let's start with a premise. Immigration is really a good thing. That said, let's make it as easy as possible for somebody who wants to come into this country and work to get a work visa. Not a green card, not citizenship, but a work visa that would entail a background check and a social security card so that applicable taxes would get paid. Now, if we implement the fair tax, taxes aren't an issue at all, because whether you're illegal, legal, a visitor to the U.S., or a U.S. citizen, nobody's going to be able to avoid paying one federal consumption tax. And then Mitt Romney, with a straight face, says that we need to balance the federal budget, but that we need to hold Medicare intact, and we need to increase spending for the military. I'm just going to make a premise here, and that is that everybody here finished the second grade, and the mathematics equivalency that went along with graduating from the second grade, and it just doesn't add up. These guys last week were arguing over who's going to spend more money on Medicare. We need to have a raging debate and discussion in this country on how we are going to slash Medicare spending, because if we don't do it, we're going to find ourselves without a country. Medicare is a benefit where we pay $30 into a benefit and get $100 back. By extension, we pay $30,000 into a benefit that we get $100,000 back. Look, I'm going to retire, I'm going to have health care, but you all as young people, you are never going to be able to retire. You're never going to have health care because this is a Ponzi scheme, and it's not going to happen. I think that all of this falls unduly on your shoulders, and that it's incredibly unfair. Oh, and you're the ones that go fight the wars. You're the ones that die overseas. You're the ones that come back with your limbs blown off. And then President Obama's health care plan. gee, that's incumbent on healthy people buying insurance to pay for those that aren't so healthy. Well, guess who that falls on also? It's young people who are in that healthy group. So young people are really getting screwed in all of this. We have insurmountable, really, they're not insurmountable. We have some problems that are really gigantic, and they need to be addressed now. I mean, good news, bad news is that with all these problems, they can be addressed. But it's mutual sacrifice on all of our parts that are going to get us through this. And it's not some pie in the sky. It's going to fix itself. I mean, they're really wanting us to believe that Santa Claus, that the Easter Bunny, and by extension the Tooth Fairy are alive and well and they're all coming. They're not. But we can step in and we can make a difference. I would not be doing this if I didn't think I could make this difference. I want to all offer you a suggestion in life, and it's worth exactly what you are all paying for it, which is nothing. And what I'm going to suggest to all of you is that you're all watching a movie, okay? You're all watching a movie. You're the star of the show. You're watching yourself on the screen. You're the director. You're the producer. Do you like what you see? And if you don't like what you see, then change it. Change it right now because you are in control of your own life. My advice to all of you, and it's worth exactly what you're paying for it, is take whatever your expertise is and apply it for yourself. Do what you do for yourself. And by that I mean be an entrepreneur. Start your own business. You will find the rewards to be 100 times that of ever going out and working for anyone else. And now I'm back to this movie. You're in control of this. You can do whatever you want with your life. But understand that you're in control and nobody else is. So that said, a lot is being said right now about wasted vote. What is more of a wasted vote than voting for somebody that you don't believe in? And don't we change things in this country by voting for somebody that we believe in? That's how we change things in this country. So I'm asking you all to consider the following. Waste your vote. Waste your vote on me. And if you waste your vote on me, guess what? I might be the next president of the United States. And if I am, I'm going to promise you dogged pursuit of everything it is that I'm talking about here. Don't we so want to elect a leader? Wasn't the great promise of Obama the fact that we were going to elect a leader? Now, a leader needs Congress to go along with the ideas, but there needs to be that raging debate and discussion with everything that's happening in this country, something that's not happening right now. Let's get it on the front burner. We can save this country, but we need to do it now. And so I implore you, back to the wasted vote, I implore you all to take your neighbors, your friends, your co-workers, co-students, take them by the collar and just ask them to check out Gary Johnson as a potential alternative. And like I say, I will make no one disappointed for casting their vote in this direction. As was earlier said, I would love to open this up to any questions, comments, any insults maybe that any of you have. What will I do about Syria? Well, so right now, we are funding the Syrian insurgents. And apparently a quarter of the Syrian insurgents are Al-Qaeda. What are we doing? I mean, isn't this the same as Afghanistan, where we basically funded Osama bin Laden in Afghanistan? Our military interventions never cease. We militarily intervene. We prop up a new foreign dictatorship in place of the old foreign dictatorship with really no difference in consequence, and yet we're always talking about making that difference. Standing up to vital American interests. Can somebody here tell me what vital American interests are?
Oil.
Oil.
SLD sham.
No disagreement. These are not vital American interests. These are politicians that are beating their chests, and in the name of beating their chests over elect me and re-elect me, here's what we do from a foreign, here is our foreign policy, here are the military interventions that we ceaselessly engage ourselves in, the result of which we're being vilified worldwide as opposed to historically being the beacon on the hill, standing up against the bully. We're the bully. How do I feel about renewable energy? I think, so you're looking at the guy here that really believes in free markets. And free markets, the criticism of free markets always ends up to be a criticism of crony capitalism, not free markets. Free markets have their issues, but free markets work their way in and out of bubbles, if you will. But crony capitalism is government really intruding and making marketplaces that perhaps don't exist. So when it comes to energy, the government has stepped in and has altered the free market approach to energy. With a free market approach to energy, renewables, look, we're demanding cleaner energy. We're demanding less carbon emission as citizens. We're going to get it. If the government comes in and mandates cap and trade, I think what we're going to end up with is just spending a lot more money without any benefit whatsoever. The number one impact on environment is a good economy. We're demanding, like I say, less carbon emission. We will get less carbon emission because that's what we as consumers are demanding. When it comes to renewable energy right now, I see really a hard road for renewable energy right now because the only way that it exists is because of government subsidies. And right now we are awash in natural gas and we are awash in oil from North Dakota, Bakken.
Sorry. Hey, what about our guns?
What about our guns? So, primary on the list of being President of the United States is governing under strict adherence to the United States Constitution. I don't know how the Second Amendment could be any more clear, and that would be your and my right to be able to own and possess guns. So you're not listening to the guy who wants to legislate caliber or number of bullets in the chamber. You're looking at somebody who believes that if you outlaw guns, outlaws are going to have guns. Council on Foreign Affairs. The notion of the fact that they've been in existence and we have the military interventions that we have, I just think speaks for itself. I can't support any group that has been active in a time where we militarily intervene as much as we intervene with all of the unintended consequences. Iran would not be wielding its head today, but the fact that we take out Iraq and Saddam Hussein, that was their only concern. We take them out, well, an unintended consequence is Iran raising its head, and I would argue that Iran is not a military threat, as I argued that Iraq was not a military threat before we went in. I didn't see weapons of mass destruction, and I know we have military surveillance capability to see weapons of mass destruction back in 2003. Hey, we have the military surveillance capability to see Iraq roll out any weapons of mass destruction. If they do it, we have all sorts of options available if that happens. But back in 2003, I said, if we go into Iraq, we're going to find ourselves in a civil war to which there would be no end. Afghanistan, you know what? We went in there, we were attacked. Al-Qaeda, we attacked back. After being in Afghanistan for 6 months, we wiped out Al-Qaeda. That was 11 years ago.
What would you do? I know you've been on record about getting rid of marijuana laws, sentencing laws. What about the disparity in crack cocaine versus powder cocaine?
Well, the disparity between powder cocaine and crack cocaine, look, that's a no-brainer. That's just a no-brainer. I mean, we should be looking at outside of legalizing marijuana, if we legalized all drugs tomorrow, the world would be a much better place. Looking at drugs first as a health issue rather than a criminal justice issue, recognizing that Portugal, 10 years ago, decriminalized all drug use. They did it in response to a heroin epidemic in the country. In the last 10 years, Portugal has documented a 50% reduction in heroin use. Look, I'm for dental hygiene in a big way, so I want to propose legislation making it criminal to brush your teeth in this country. Imagine everybody sneaking out in their backyard, brushing their teeth, you know, fearful of drones flying over that are going to document that toothbrushing phenomenon. What's that?
Drone strike.
Drone strike. Well, you know, nothing is blanket. Okay, so nothing is blanket, but the drone strike program takes out the target. But the drone strike also kills all sorts of innocent civilians, and those innocent civilians are connected with friends and family, you and I. And they get killed, and you and I vow vengeance against the country that did that, including giving of our own lives to bring about that vengeance. That's the phenomenon. I mean, remote control killing, it's horrible. It's horrible. And I don't want to blanket say, nothing's blanket. So if our target is some house on the hill, and that target is the target, that's one thing. But if we're taking out a target and it's in the middle of some city, we take out the target and we take out a quarter of the block associated, or we take out the whole city block. The notion of well, I've had the good fortune to go to Israel. I've had the good fortune to sit down and talk with Netanyahu. What I came away from my trips to Israel with is that we really don't understand this issue. I mean, to me, the West Bank was a territory. I mean, I saw it over hill, over dale, when the reality is it's a fence in a modern-day subdivision. So I don't really think that we understand this issue, and we should not be dictating to Israel what they should or shouldn't do. Although, as President of the United States, I would be urging Israel to not bomb Iran, and then understanding that if Iran at any point launches, and by the way, we get to watch this develop. It's not like this is going to happen in a vacuum. But any country that launches a nuclear warhead, they're going to be obliterated. There's going to be nothing left of their country because of the retaliation of that, and that's Israel with its 300 nuclear warheads. And I don't see Israel. I don't see foreign aid to Israel. You know, stop with the foreign aid, but let's stop pretending that we should tell Israel what they should or shouldn't do, as we don't want anybody telling us what we should or shouldn't do in this country. Explain my fair tax plan. To start with, it's not my plan. It's check it out, fairtax.org. But it's been it's a proposal where 90 congressmen and women have signed on to one federal consumption tax. So you're going to eliminate. So it's a package. You're going to eliminate income tax, corporate tax. You're going to abolish the IRS. No more withholdings from your payroll check. No more Social Security taken out. No more Medicare taken out. No more unemployment taken out. All that will come out of the proceeds of the fair tax. It ends up being cost neutral over a very short amount of time. And let me use a can of Coke as an example. A can of Coke that sells for $1 today has arguably embedded the tax is a 23% consumption tax. So back to the can of Coke. The can of Coke arguably has 23% federal embedded non-transparent tax in the can of Coke. That would be corporate tax that Coke pays. That would be Social Security that Coke pays, Medicare, you name it. You're going to take that out. So the can of Coke doesn't need to sell for $1 anymore for Coke to make the same amount of profit. They can sell it for 80 cents. And if you think they'll continue to sell it for $1, well, at least in the cola industry, unlike healthcare, we do have competitive markets. They will price it at 80 cents. So that ends up to be the answer for exports, because you're going to bleed all federal non-transparent tax out of goods and services that we export. It only applies to new goods, so not used goods. You're not going to compound this tax. So that's really the answer when it comes to American exports, making them that much more competitive. And it's really the answer when it comes to American jobs, because we're talking about a zero corporate tax rate environment. During the debate last week, they were arguing over, 27% or 25% corporate tax, which one's better for the economy, both of them agreeing that lower corporate taxes would lead to more jobs. And corporate tax is just tax that gets passed on to all of us anyway. So eliminate it completely, zero corporate tax rate. We're talking about an economic explosion in this country as we've never seen. The entire world will adopt consumption tax in lieu of what we currently have.
Question over here, Gary.
What about the flat tax?
Flat tax would be the way that the income tax started out. Income tax in this country started out as a flat tax, and look what it's morphed into. So let's get rid of all existing federal tax, and that's part of this legislative package. What about education and standardized testing? Well, the best thing that the federal government could do when it comes to education is to get abolished. The federal Department of Education gives each state about 11 cents out of every school dollar that every state spends. But what we don't as a country understand is that the 11 cents comes with 16 cents worth of strings attached. The federal government says, here's 11 cents, and you need to do A, B, C, and D to qualify for the 11 cents. Well, to do A, B, C, and D, it costs 16 cents. It's a negative to take federal money because you have to implement these tests. So just give education back to the states, 15 laboratories of innovation and best practice, and I think that's exactly what we'll have.
Gary, how do you feel about Freedom of Information Acts?
Freedom of Information Acts. Oh, transparent government. That's what can be provided. And I will say, as governor of New Mexico, I'm not talking here in a vacuum. I got to serve 8 years as governor of New Mexico, being very, very transparent. That's a good thing. Don't shoot the messenger. In the case of WikiLeaks, don't shoot the messenger. Aren't they basically telling us what we already basically knew? And to my knowledge, WikiLeaks did not release any information that resulted in putting anyone in harm's way. At least that's to my knowledge. But, how about having that right up front? So just a couple of more questions, and I want to thank all of you. I want to thank all of you for taking your time. The fact that you're here speaks volumes to the fact that you are activists, that you stay informed. And so I recognize that there are a lot of other people that look to all of you for answers on all these issues because you've taken the time to be here and know what they are. Yes? Say again, I'm sorry. So if I caught the last part of it right, Monsanto. Look, I'm all for labeling. Okay, I think government should mandate that there be labeling on food. I have celiac disease. I'm allergic to gluten, and when I found this out, it changed my life. Imagine eating poison your entire life and then finding out that you don't have to poison yourself. Well, government labeling makes it possible for me to be able to eat. And back to genetically modified foods, we should be able to make these decisions, but let's have the labeling. So government has a role to protect us against individuals, groups, corporations that would do us harm, and in that context, requiring ingredients to food? Yeah.
Sort of expand on the Monsanto point, it's not only is it making all this GMO food, which is fine and it's labeled, but they're also waging a virulent war on
So let me ask you this question. Does not elimination of farm subsidies go a long way to make that happen? I'm not going to, out of the chute, advocate elimination of all farm subsidies out of the chute. I'm going to advocate a 43% reduction out of the chute. But what's the reason for obesity in America? Is obesity in America not a direct result of corn subsidy and corn syrup and everything that we eat? Any chance on the debates? I think there's the possibility. I wouldn't be doing this if there still isn't the possibility of winning this race. Now, to win the race, I know this sounds crazy, but one of my big concerns is peaking too early. So if there's anything we've learned over the last year, it's, in this case, how many Republicans? 7 Republicans went to the top of the heap for 17 days. So the wave just needs to hit by the middle of October. But if I'm in the debates, and we've sued to be in these debates, whether or not anything comes of that or not, of course, there's no chance if you're not on the ballot in all 50 states, and there's no chance if you haven't filed suit. If I were in the debates, I think I would be the next president of the United States, because what that would generate is just a whole lot of focus on me and what I've done and what I'm saying that I'm going to try and accomplish. And I feel good under that microscope. It's taking your friends and family and coworkers by the collar and saying, wake up, and check out a third alternative. Just check it out. Not vote for them, just check it out. And I think it sells itself. I really do. With that, thank you all very, very much. And I got to split at 1 o'clock.